Hello everyone, and welcome to the video. So today I'm going to be talking about a creepypasta called A Story to Scare My Son. Now this is all written in the first person, and as always I will leave a link to this creepypasta in the description below. So the creepypasta starts saying, "Son, we need to talk about internet safety." I sit next to him and his eyes are glued to the screen as he is playing in a public server, seeing the comments scrolling down the side of the screen in the chat box. "Son, can you stop your game for a minute? I need to speak to you." So he exited the server and closed the laptop, looking at me and said, "Is this going to be another cheesy scary story?" What? I faked I faked hurt emotions for a second and grinned at him. "I thought you liked my cautionary tales." He grew up to my stories about kids who encountered witches, ghosts, werewolves and trolls. Like many parents, I use scary stories to reinforce morals and teach lessons about safety. He scrunched his face a little and said, "They were fine when I was 6, but now I'm getting older, they don't scare me." They seem kind of silly. If you are going to tell a story about the internet, can you make it really scary? I'm 10 and I can handle it, Dad. Okay, I'll try. I began once upon a time there was a boy named Colby. His expression told me he was not impressed so far, and he sighed deeply and settled in for one of Dad's cheesy stories. So I continued. Colby went online and joined several children's websites, and after a while he started to talk to other kids in-game and on message boards. He made friends with another 10-year-old boy called Helper23. They spent months building up a friendship and had a lot of the same hobbies. And after this time, Colby decided to gift Helper23 6 diamonds in his game, and that was a very generous gift. Colby's birthday was coming up, and Helper23 wanted to get him a cool gift, but in real life. And Colby thought it wouldn't hurt to give his home address as long as Helper23 promised not to tell any strangers or even grown-ups. And Helper agreed not to tell anyone, including his parents, and went about mailing the package. I paused the story and I turned to my son and I said, "Do you think that this was a good idea?" And he goes, "No," he said, shaking his head as he was really getting into the story. He seemed a bit miffed that I interrupted him there. Well, neither did Colby. He felt guilty about giving away his home address, and guilt continued to grow and grow. By the time he was getting ready to go to bed the next night, his guilt and fear were bigger than anything else in his life. He decided to tell the truth to his parents. He knew the punishment would be steep, but it is worth it for a clear conscience. Now, my son knew the scary bit was coming up, and in spite of his tough talk, he leaned forward wide-eyed, and I could tell that he was bricking it. So, he heard all the noises of the house. The washing machine bounced around in the laundry room, branches scraped against the brick outside his room, his baby brother cooed in the nursery, and some other noises he couldn't quite pinpoint what was going on in his house this night. But finally he heard his dad's footsteps echoing down the hall. So he called out, "Hey Dad," and he said, "Hey Dad, I have something to tell you." His dad stuck his head in the doorway, but at a weird angle. In the darkness, his mouth didn't quite seem to move, and the eyes were all wrong. "Yes, son," the voice was way off too. "Are you okay, Dad?" the boy asked. "Uh-huh," sung the father in his strangely effective voice. Colby pulled his covers up defensively. Is Mum around?" "Here I am." Mum's head popped into the doorway below, and her voice was unnatural too. Were you about to tell us that you gave our home address to Helper 23? You shouldn't have done that. We told you never to give out personal information on the internet, she continued. He wasn't really a kid. He just pretended to be one. Do you know what he did? He came to our house, broke in and murdered both of us, just so he could spend some time with you. A fat man in a wetsuit emerged in the child's doorway holding the severed heads of Colby's parents. Colby shrieked and gasped as the man dropped the heads on the ground, unsheathed his knife and moved into the room to work on the boy. My son screamed too, but we were just getting started with this story, so I had to carry on. After several hours, the boy was almost dead and his screams had become whimpers. The killer noticed the wailing of a baby in another room and removed his knife from Colby. This was a special treat. He had never murdered a baby before and he was excited by the prospect. Helper 23 left Colby to die and followed the cries through the house like home in Beacon. In the nursery, he walked up to the cot, picked the baby up and held it in his arms. He moved towards the changing table to get a better look at the baby, but as he held the baby, the crying died down. The baby looked up and smiled. Helper 23 had never held a baby, but he gently bounced it in his arms like a pro. He wiped his bloody hands on the blanket so he could stroke the baby's cheek. Hey there, sweet little guy. The beautiful rage of sadism melted into something warmer and softer. He walked out of the nursery, took the baby home, named him William, and raised him as his very own. After I finished the story, my son was visibly shaken. He stammered, but Dad, my name is William. I gave him a classic dad ring and tousled his hair. Of course it is, son. William then ran up to the stairs to his bedroom in a flurry of sobs, but deep down I think he liked the story. And that's the end of that creepypasta. So my opinion on that creepypasta is I did really enjoy that one, to be honest. It just reminded me of, like, you know, a typical dad winding up his kids. I mean, like, we've all had our parents that would say cheesy, corny stories, but it's interesting to think of it. And it's like, with some of these creepypastas, you know, never in a million years it would happen. But just think, what if you did get kidnapped when you was a baby by this killer that killed your family, but you never knew? Like, you know, I like that little bit of realism. I know it's only a creepypasta, but I just like how it could, well, it feels like it could happen. I mean, it's still very unlikely, don't get me wrong, but it just feels a bit more realistic, especially compared to some of the other creepypastas that you read out there. And it was interesting that it was all in first person as well. I thought it was just a really good one. I hope you guys will let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll be sure to read them all, and like I say, I'll put the link to the full creepypasta in the description. And if you guys could like and subscribe, that would be great. And if you could also check out my petition that I've made on change.org, I would really appreciate it. If you're unable to sign, sharing would be amazing. And I will see you guys in the next one. See you later. Bye.